The observation window showed 7 small creatures huddled in the corner of the containment room. Their scales shimmered between deep purple and midnight blue, catching the artificial light in ways that hurt to look at directly. Each one was roughly the size of a large dog, with wings folded tight, against their bodies and tails wrapped around themselves for comfort. Owen pressed his hand against the cold glass and watched them. "Shiver, they're dying," he said quietly. Behind him, Dr. Halvin clicked his mandibles together in the Chitauri equivalent of a sigh. The insectoid scientist's compound eyes reflected the monitoring screens that lined the observation deck. 4 days without food. Their metabolic readings are declining. We have perhaps 2 more days before the damage becomes permanent. Then let me go in. Absolutely not. The voice belonged to Borum, the station's chief of security. The massive Saros stood nearly 8 feet tall, his scaled hide covered in ceremonial scars from a dozen campaigns. "Those are dragon hatchlings. Do you understand what that means, human?" Owen turned away from the window. "It means they're babies who need help." Borum's vertical pupils narrowed. "It means they are the offspring of the most dangerous predators in known space. Adult dragons have torn through battleship hulls with their claws. They have burned colonies to ash. Entire species have gone extinct trying to coexist with them." "That was centuries ago," Owen said. "Instinct does not age," Borum replied. "Look at them. Really look. What do you feel?" Owen turned back to the window. The hatchlings were moving now, their heads turning in unison toward something only they could sense. Even through reinforced glass and 50 feet of distance, Owen felt it. A pressure against his thoughts. A whisper in the back of his mind that said danger, threat, run. His heart rate increased. His palms grew damp. "I feel afraid," Owen admitted. "Good. That fear keeps you alive. Every species in this station feels it. The Chitauri, the Soros, the Lumens, the Veilborn. Every single one of us looks at those creatures and feels the same primal terror. It is written into our genetics by millions of years of evolution. Predator and prey." Dr. Halvin moved closer to the window. His antennae twitched with agitation. "The human speaks truth about one thing. They are dying. We rescued them from Dravis before the volcanic eruptions consumed their nesting ground. We thought we were saving them. Instead, we have created a worse fate. We've tried everything," added Quillis, the Lumen research lead. Her crystalline body pulsed with frustrated amber light. "Automated feeding systems. Remote delivery. Various food preparations. They refuse it all. The xenobiology texts are clear. Dragon hatchlings require direct feeding from a guardian. They need physical contact, bonding. Without it, they simply lose the will to eat." "Then get their mother," Owen said. The room fell silent. Eventually, Dr. Halvin spoke. "Their mother is dead. The entire adult dragon population of Dravis perished in the eruptions. We detected the hatchlings by accident during the evacuation scans. These 7 are all that remain of their kind on that world." Owen watched the smallest hatchling separate from the group. It stumbled on weak legs toward the food dispenser, sniffed at the untouched meat, then turned away. The tiny creature made a sound, something between a chirp and a whimper. The others responded with similar calls. They were talking to each other, Owen realized. Comforting each other. "I volunteer," Owen said. "No," Borum said immediately. "I volunteer," Owen repeated, louder this time. "I'll go in. I'll try to feed them." Dr. Halvin's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You are a maintenance technician. You have no xenobiology training, no combat augmentations, no defensive enhancements. If they attack, you will die in seconds. If nobody goes in, they'll die in days. That seems like a worse option. Why?" Quillis asked, her light shifting to confused blue. "Why would you risk this?" Owen kept his eyes on the hatchlings. The smallest one had returned to the group. The largest, the one with darker scales and more prominent horns, had wrapped itself around the little one protectively. "Back on Earth, I grew up on a farm. We had animals. Cows, chickens, horses. Sometimes we'd get orphaned wildlife. Fox cubs, deer fawns. Once a bear cub that wandered from the forest. You know what I learned?" "What?" Dr. Halvin asked. "Scared babies act the same everywhere. Doesn't matter if they've got fur or scales or feathers. They're just scared and alone, and they need someone to show them it's going to be okay." Borum growled low in his throat. "Those are not bear cubs. Those are dragons." "Those are children," Owen corrected. "Look at them. They're not acting like predators. They're acting like terrified kids." Dr. Halvin moved to a console and pulled up biological data. The human may have a point. Observe their behavior patterns. Huddling for warmth and comfort. Vocal communication for reassurance. Protective positioning of the larger specimens around the smaller. These are social bonding behaviors, not predatory ones. Because they are too weak to hunt, Borum argued. The moment they recover strength, instinct will take over. Maybe, Owen said. Or maybe they just need someone who isn't afraid of them. But you are afraid, Quillis observed. You admitted it. Yeah, I'm afraid. I'm terrified, but I can walk in there anyway. Owen pulled off his jacket and handed it to Dr. Halvin. Where I'm from, we have a saying. Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what needs to be done even when you are scared. Dr. Halvin studied the jacket, then looked at Owen. You truly believe you can help them? I believe they deserve a chance. I believe someone has to try, and I believe I've got nothing better to do today. That last part wasn't entirely true. Owen had plenty of maintenance requests backed up. But he didn't mention the other reason. The real reason, the way the smallest hatchling reminded him of someone. Someone he'd lost 3 years ago. Someone who had also been small and scared and needed him. His daughter would have been 10 years old now. Borum stepped forward. If you go in there, human, I cannot protect you. Security protocols prevent intervention unless you signal for help. By the time we could respond, you would already be dead. I understand. You will sign liability waivers. The station will not be held responsible for your death. Fine. Dr. Halvin clicked his mandibles in what might have been respect or disbelief. Very well. We will prepare the containment protocols. You have 2 hours to ready yourself. I suggest you use that time wisely. Perhaps write messages to your family. Owen shook his head. No family to write to, but I'll take the 2 hours. I need to study their body language and prepare the right food. As Owen left the observation deck, he heard Borum speaking to Dr. Halvin in a low voice. The human is insane. Perhaps, Dr. Halvin replied. Or perhaps humans are simply built differently than the rest of us. I have read their history. They domesticated wolves into loyal companions. They lived alongside creatures that could kill them easily. They have always had this strange relationship with dangerous things. That relationship usually ends in death, Borum said. Sometimes, Dr. Halvin agreed, but sometimes it ends in friendship. Owen didn't hear the rest of the conversation. He was already planning food preparation, approach strategy, calming techniques. He had 2 hours to figure out how to make 7 baby dragons trust him. It would have to be enough. Owen sat alone in the station's archive room, surrounded by data pads and projection screens. Information about dragons filled every display. Most of it was warnings, attack patterns, casualty reports, historical accounts of colonies destroyed. He ignored those and focused on the biological studies instead. Dragons had excellent hearing. Their sense of smell could detect fear pheromones from 100 meters away. Their eyes could see heat signatures. Young dragons bonded through physical contact and feeding rituals. They communicated through a complex system of chirps, growls, and body language. He made notes. Stayed calm, moved slowly. Let them approach first. Don't stare directly. Don't show teeth. Keep hands visible. It was similar to approaching wild animals on Earth, but not quite the same. Dragons were intelligent. Some studies suggested they might be as smart as humans, maybe smarter. They weren't just animals operating on instinct. They were thinking, feeling beings that made it easier and harder at the same time. You're still going through with this. It wasn't a question. Quillis materialized through the doorway, her crystalline form refracting the light into rainbow patterns. Yeah, Owen said without looking up. I have been reviewing your personnel file. You worked in maintenance for 2 years. Before that, you were on an Earth agricultural colony. Before that, a farming community. You have no combat training, no scientific credentials, no reason to be qualified for this task. Sounds about right. Quillis moved closer. Yet you volunteer for certain death. Why? Owen finally looked up from his research. You really want to know? I do. I had a daughter, Lily. She got sick when she was 7. Some virus we didn't have immunity to. We were on a colony world, far from major medical facilities. By the time we got her to proper care, it was too late. He paused. She was scared, so scared. And all I could do was hold her hand and tell her everything would be okay. But it wasn't okay. Quillis's light shifted to soft purple, the lumen color of sympathy. I am sorry. After she died, my wife blamed me. Said I should have gotten Lily to doctors sooner. Should have pushed harder. She left. I ended up here, fixing air filters and replacing power couplings, trying to forget. Owen gestured toward the window where the containment room was visible far below. Then I saw those hatchlings. The way they huddle together. The way the little one cries. I can't save my daughter, but maybe I can save them. That is not logical reasoning. Probably not. But it's the only reasoning I've got. Quilla stood silent for a moment. Then she reached out and touched Owen's shoulder. Her crystalline hand was surprisingly warm. For what it is worth, I hope you succeed. The galaxy has too much death already. After she left, Owen continued his research. He learned that dragon hatchlings imprinted on whoever fed them first. That bonding was permanent and unbreakable. That dragons remembered every kindness and every cruelty for their entire lives, which could span thousands of years. No pressure, he thought. 2 hours passed quickly. Owen gathered supplies. Fresh meat carefully prepared, soft blankets that smelled like him, a small music player, and most importantly, patience. The walk to the containment level felt longer than it should. Station personnel watched him pass, some with curiosity, some with pity, some taking bets on how long he would survive. Owen heard the whispers. He ignored them. At the containment entrance, Borum waited in full combat armor. Last chance to reconsider, human. I'm good, thanks. At least take a weapon. A neural disruptor, something. Owen shook his head. If I walk in there armed, they'll know. They'll smell the metal and the fear. I go in with food and good intentions, or I don't go in at all. Borum made a sound like grinding rocks. You are either the bravest creature I have ever met or the most foolish. I have not decided which. Can it be both? Despite everything, Borum's mouth twitched in what might have been a smile. Perhaps. Go with honor, Owen of Earth. If you die, I will speak your name in the warrior halls. Appreciate it. Try to keep the eulogy short, though. I'm not that interesting. Dr. Halvin appeared, flanked by medical staff and security teams. All personnel are in position. Medical trauma unit standing by. The containment field can be activated in 0.3 seconds if needed. We have sedative gas ready, though I am told it may not work on dragon physiology. Great. Super comforting. I feel obligated to inform you that galactic law requires me to document your decision as voluntary. You are choosing this action of your own free will with full knowledge of the risks. Yeah, I get it. Not your fault if I get eaten. Can we do this before I overthink it? Dr. Halvin clicked his mandibles in acknowledgement. Very well. May fortune favor you. The containment door was 3 inches of reinforced alloy. It opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Beyond it lay a short corridor, then the inner door. Owen stepped through. The outer door sealed behind him with a sound like a tomb closing. He stood in the corridor for a moment, breathing. His heart hammered against his ribs. That primal fear was stronger now, pressing against his thoughts like a physical weight. Every instinct screamed at him to turn around, to run, to get as far from this place as possible. He thought of Lily, how she'd been afraid of the dark, how he'd sat beside her bed every night holding her hand until she fell asleep, how he'd promised her that brave didn't mean not scared. It meant being scared and doing it anyway. Okay, baby girl, he whispered. Let's see if your old dad still remembers how to be brave. Owen pressed the button. The inner door opened. The containment room was large, about 50 feet across. One wall was reinforced glass for observation. The rest was bare metal, with a few scattered food dispensers and a water station. In the far corner, 7 pairs of eyes turned toward him. The hatchlings went still. Completely unnaturally still. Even their breathing seemed to stop. They stared at Owen with an intensity that made his skin crawl. He took a slow step forward. Then another. He kept his movements smooth and predictable, non-threatening. He didn't meet their eyes directly, just kept them in his peripheral vision. The largest hatchling, the one with darker scales, moved to the front of the group. It lowered its head and made a sound deep in its throat. A warning. The others shifted behind it, forming a protective cluster with the smallest in the center. Owen stopped walking. He slowly lowered himself to sit cross-legged on the floor. The metal was cold through his pants. He placed the container of food beside him, but didn't open it yet. Hey, he said softly, I know you're scared. I'm scared too, but I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help. The hatchlings didn't respond. They watched him with unblinking eyes. Owen waited. Patience was key. Let them make the first move. Let them decide. Minutes passed. His legs started to cramp. The fear pressed harder against his mind. He focused on breathing, in and out. Steady. Calm. Then the smallest hatchling moved. It was barely noticeable at first. Just a slight shift forward. The others hissed softly, trying to hold it back. But the little one was hungry. It had been days without proper food. Survival instinct was overriding caution. Owen opened the container slowly. The smell of fresh meat filled the room. The hatchlings' nostrils flared. Their eyes widened. He could see them trembling with need. He took a piece of meat and placed it on the floor. Then he slid it forward about halfway between himself and the hatchlings. The smallest one took another step. Then another. The largest hatchling tried to block its path, but the little one squeezed underneath. It was so small compared to the others, barely the size of a terrier dog. It reached the meat, sniffed it, looked at Owen, looked back at the meat. "It's okay," Owen said. "Go ahead." "It's for you." The hatchling snatched the meat and darted back to the group. It devoured the food in 2 bites, then chirped excitedly to the others. Owen placed another piece. And another, each time sliding it a little closer to himself. The smallest hatchling came forward more confidently now. Then one of the others joined it. Then another. Soon, 5 of the 7 were approaching, though they kept a cautious distance. The largest 2 remained back, watching, protecting. Owen kept feeding them, piece by piece, his movements slow and steady. Outside, he knew the entire station was watching. The feed would be going across the galaxy, but he didn't think about that. He focused on the hatchlings, on earning their trust, 1 piece of meat at a time. The smallest one was getting braver. It took the food from Owen's hand directly now, its teeth carefully avoiding his fingers. Its scales were warm to the touch, softer than they looked. "There you go," Owen murmured. "See, not so scary, am I?" The hatchling chirped. Then, without warning, it pressed its head against Owen's knee. Owen froze. The small creature was leaning against him, seeking contact, seeking comfort. Slowly, carefully, Owen reached down and touched its head. The hatchling leaned into the touch, making a rumbling sound like a purr. One by one, the others approached. Even the largest, the protective one, finally came forward. It studied Owen for a long moment, then took meat from his hand. Owen sat surrounded by 7 dragon hatchlings, all of them eating, all of them gradually relaxing. The fear he'd felt earlier was still there, but it was distant now. Manageable. These weren't monsters. They were just scared kids who needed someone to care. As the smallest hatchling curled up against his side and fell asleep, Owen felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Purpose. 3 weeks had changed everything. Owen walked through the station corridors with a data pad in one hand and a bag of dragon toys in the other. Personnel stepped aside as he passed, their reactions ranging from awe to confusion to something close to fear. Not fear of him, but fear of what he represented, the impossible made real. The containment room had been transformed into a proper nursery. Climbing structures made from reinforced alloy, scratch posts wrapped in industrial fiber, heat lamps that mimicked natural sunlight, a shallow pool for bathing, and blankets, so many blankets. The hatchlings loved soft things. Owen pressed his hand to the entry panel. The door opened without the usual security delays. Dr. Halvin had granted him unrestricted access after the first week. When it became clear, the hatchlings responded only to him. Inside, chaos greeted him. The energetic one, the hatchling Owen had started calling Spark, was racing around the room with a metal ball in its mouth, being chased by 2 others. The serious one, Grim, sat atop the highest climbing structure, watching everything with calculating eyes. The shy one, Shadow, hid partially behind a barrier, but peeked out with obvious interest. The moody one, Storm, was having some kind of disagreement with Bright, the curious one over a puzzle toy, and in the center of it all, the largest and smallest, bold and little, the protective leader and the affectionate heart of the group. They all stopped when Owen entered. 7 heads turned in unison. Then Little chirped excitedly and launched across the room. The tiny dragon crashed into Owen's legs hard enough to make him stumble. "Oof. Hey there, Little. Miss me?" Little responded by climbing up Owen's body like a cat, using claws that were thankfully retracted. The small dragon settled on his shoulders and nuzzled his neck, making happy trilling sounds. The others approached more calmly, but Owen could see their excitement. Tail swishing, wings fluttering, eyes bright with recognition and joy. They surrounded him, pressing close, competing for attention. All right. I've only been gone 4 hours. But Owen was smiling. He dropped the bag and let them investigate. Spark immediately grabbed a new rope toy and tried to get Bright to play tug of war. Storm sniffed at a rubber ball and gave it an experimental claw swipe, sending it bouncing across the room. Bold approached last, as always. The largest hatchling had appointed itself as guardian of the group. It studied Owen carefully, checking for injuries or signs of distress. Only when satisfied did Bold allow itself to press its head against Owen's chest. Yeah, I'm fine. Long day, though. Let me tell you about it. Owen had discovered that talking to them helped. They didn't understand his words, not exactly, but they understood tone, and they were learning. Dr. Halvin believed they were learning his language faster than should be possible. He settled onto the floor, and the hatchlings arranged themselves around him. Little remained on his shoulders. Bold sat to his right, vigilant. The others found their spots. This had become their routine. Owen would arrive, they would greet him, and then they would simply be together for a while. The observation window showed several figures watching. Dr. Halvin was always there, taking notes. Quillis came by frequently, studying the behavior patterns. Even Borum stopped by sometimes, though the warrior claimed it was for security reasons. Other species had tried to interact with the hatchlings. It never went well. The dragons tolerated their presence when Owen was there, but showed clear discomfort. Without him, they became aggressive, not attacking but warning, making it clear that others were not welcome. The human has bonded with them on a fundamental level, Owen had overheard Quillis saying during one observation session. This is unprecedented. Multiple species have attempted dragon domestication throughout history. All failed, yet this one human succeeded in 3 weeks. Perhaps it is not about domestication, Dr. Halvin had replied. Perhaps it is about understanding. The human treats them as children, not as animals or weapons. There is a difference. Owen pulled out a brush from his bag. Okay, who wants grooming time? Little chirped immediately. The small dragon loved being brushed. Owen worked carefully, running the soft bristles along the delicate scales. Dragons shed their skin in pieces as they grew, and helping with the process made them more comfortable. The others waited their turn patiently. Well, most of them. Storm tried to cut in line and got a warning growl from Bold. Storm backed off with a huff. As Owen worked, he noticed how much they'd grown. Little was now the size of a golden retriever instead of a terrier. Bold had grown even more, approaching the size of a small pony. Their scales were brighter, healthier, their eyes clearer, their movements stronger. You're all doing so good, Owen said. Growing up fast. Won't be long before you're too big for this room. Bold made a low rumbling sound. The dragon pressed closer, as if sensing Owen's concern about the future. What happened when they outgrew the station? When they became full-sized dragons? Would they remember him? Would they stay gentle? Owen pushed the thoughts away, one day at a time. He moved on to Bright, who immediately started trying to pull the brush apart to see how it worked. No, it's for brushing, not disassembling. But he smiled. Bright's curiosity was endless. The hatchling investigated everything Owen brought, trying to understand how things functioned. Grim was next. The serious one sat perfectly still during grooming, barely moving. But Owen could feel the contentment radiating from the dragon. A deep purr vibrated through its body. Shadow was more challenging. The shy hatchling wanted attention but was nervous about it. Owen had to move slowly, speak softly. Eventually, Shadow relaxed enough to enjoy the grooming. Spark was impossible to groom properly. The energetic dragon kept moving, kept playing, kept trying to turn everything into a game. Owen did his best, laughing as Spark dodged and weaved. Storm was having one of the moody episodes. The dragon sat apart from the group, radiating frustration. Owen recognized the signs. Storm had incredible energy that sometimes had no outlet. It built up until the dragon felt overwhelmed. Owen set down the brush and approached Storm carefully. Hey, you okay? Storm turned away, tail lashing. I know. You're feeling all mixed up inside. Too much energy, nowhere to put it. Owen sat beside Storm, not touching, just present. It's okay to feel like that. We all do sometimes. He pulled out a heavy-duty toy, something Storm could really attack without breaking. Want to work some of that out? Storm looked at the toy, then at Owen, then back at the toy. After a moment, Storm pounced on it, tearing into it with claws and teeth. But it was controlled now, focused. The frustration had an outlet. Owen supervised, making sure Storm didn't get too worked up. When the dragon started to calm down, Owen offered a gentler toy. Storm took it, the energy finally balanced. There you go. Better? Storm pressed against Owen's side. A quiet apology and thank you combined. This was what the other species didn't understand. The hatchlings had emotions. Complex ones. They felt happy, sad, angry, confused. They needed guidance, not just food and shelter. They needed someone to help them understand their own feelings. A chime sounded. Dr. Halvin's voice came through the speakers. Owen, we have a situation. Can you come to the observation deck? Owen looked at the hatchlings. They sensed his concern immediately. Bold stood alert. Little gripped his shoulder tighter. It's okay. I'll be right back. You all stay here and be good. But as he left, he noticed their distress. They didn't like being separated from him. The bond had grown stronger than he'd realized. On the observation deck, Owen found not just Dr. Halvin and Quillis, but also Borum and several other department heads. Their expressions were serious. What's wrong? Owen asked. Dr. Halvin turned one of the monitors toward him. It showed a star chart with a single marker moving through space. This we detected it 6 hours ago. We have been tracking its approach and running analysis. What am I looking at? A dragon. An adult dragon. Coming directly toward this station. Owen's blood went cold. How? I thought they were all dead on Dravis. So did we. But this signature is unmistakable. The energy readings, the size, the trajectory. It is a dragon matriarch, and based on her flight path, she is searching for something. Owen understood immediately.
The hatchlings.
She's looking for them. That is our assessment, yes. Borum stepped forward. We must evacuate. A dragon matriarch can destroy this station with ease. We have perhaps 36 hours before she arrives. That is enough time to move essential personnel and equipment. What about the hatchlings? Owen demanded. They will remain in containment. Perhaps that will satisfy the matriarch. Perhaps not. You can't abandon them. We have no choice, human. One adult dragon versus a station of 200 personnel? There is no question which matters more. Owen turned to Dr. Halvin. There has to be another option. The Chitauri scientist clicked his mandibles slowly. The matriarch is a mother searching for her children, but she does not know they are safe. She does not know they are cared for. She only knows they are missing. Maternal instinct in dragons is powerful. She will destroy anything she perceives as a threat to her offspring. Then we show her they're safe. How? Quillis asked. We cannot communicate with her at distance, and if we wait until she arrives, she may attack before we can establish contact. Owen looked at the star chart, at the marker representing a creature powerful enough to end them all. Then he looked back at the containment room, where 7 small dragons waited for him to return. What if I go out there, take the hatchlings on a shuttle, meet her in space, show her they're alive and healthy? The room fell silent. Finally, Borum spoke. That is the worst idea I have ever heard. Probably. But it might work. She would kill you instantly. Maybe. Or maybe she'd recognize that I've been taking care of her babies. Dragons are smart, right? She'd see that they trust me, that they're happy. Dr. Halvin considered this. It is incredibly dangerous. But it is also the only option that does not involve abandoning the hatchlings or risking the entire station in combat we cannot win. I'm doing it, Owen said. The hatchlings may not survive the shuttle trip, Quillis warned. They have never been in zero gravity. The stress could be dangerous. They'll be fine. I'll be with them. Borum shook his head. You truly are insane. Yeah. But I'm the only insane person those hatchlings have got. Owen looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a mother was searching for her children. In 36 hours, he would either help reunite a family or die trying. Either way, he wasn't abandoning those hatchlings. Not now. Not ever. The shuttle bay hummed with activity. Engineers worked frantically to modify a small transport vessel for what they were calling the most dangerous diplomatic mission in galactic history. Owen watched them install additional shielding, upgrade the communications array, and reinforce the cargo bay where the hatchlings would ride. 20 hours until the matriarch arrived. 20 hours to prepare. Owen had barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw scenarios. The matriarch arriving and attacking immediately. The hatchlings panicking in zero gravity. The shuttle systems failing. 1,000 ways this could go wrong, but he also saw the alternative. The station evacuating. The hatchlings left behind in containment, alone and confused. The matriarch finding them, but not him. What would happen then? Would she understand they'd been cared for? Or would she only see them imprisoned? No, this was the right choice. The only choice? Owen. Dr. Halvin approached, his antennae drooping with exhaustion. We have prepared informational packages, visual records of your time with the hatchlings, biometric data showing their health improvements, everything we can think of to demonstrate they have been well treated. She won't care about data, Owen said. Perhaps not, but we must try every method of communication. Owen nodded. He understood. Everyone was doing their best to help him survive this. Even Borum had contributed, providing the shuttle with emergency escape protocols and defensive countermeasures. Not that they would help much against a full-grown dragon. How are they? Dr. Halvin asked, gesturing toward the containment area. Confused. They can sense something's wrong. I've been trying to prepare them, but I don't know how much they understand. They understand more than you think. Dragon intelligence is remarkable. By the time they are adults, they will be capable of complex reasoning and language. If we get to that point. Dr. Halvin placed a chitinous hand on Owen's shoulder. You have already achieved the impossible. You bonded with creatures no other species could approach. You gave them life when they were dying. Whatever happens out there, you should know that you changed galactic understanding of dragons forever. I just fed some hungry kids. You did far more than that. You proved that compassion transcends species. You showed us that fear can be overcome, and you demonstrated that humans possess a unique capacity for emotional courage. Owen managed a weak smile. Emotional courage. That's a fancy way of saying stupid. No. Bravery and stupidity appear similar, but they are not the same. Stupidity does not consider consequences. Bravery considers them and acts anyway. Dr. Halvin paused. I have sent word to the Coalition Science Council. Regardless of the outcome, your actions here will be studied for generations. You are making history, Owen of Earth. I'd rather just make it out alive. That too would be preferable. Quillis appeared, her crystalline form pulsing with urgent orange light. The hatchlings are becoming agitated. Little is calling for you. Bold is displaying aggressive protective behaviors toward the staff. Owen sighed. I better get back to them. How long until the shuttle is ready? 3 hours, Dr. Halvin said. We will launch with 15 hours to spare. That will give you time to reach optimal intercept position. 15 hours in space with 7 dragon hatchlings. Owen tried not to think about everything that could go wrong with that alone. He made his way back to the nursery. Before he even opened the door, he could hear them. Distressed calls, the sound of claws scraping against metal. They were panicking. Owen entered quickly. Hey, it's okay. I'm here. The response was immediate. All 7 dragons rushed toward him, nearly knocking him over. Little climbed up to perch on his shoulders, trembling. Bold pressed against his legs, making low warning growls at the empty room, as if threats might be hiding in the corners. The others surrounded him, seeking contact and reassurance. Even Storm, usually so independent, stayed close. I know. Everything feels wrong right now. There's a lot of activity, a lot of strange people around, but it's going to be okay. Owen moved to sit down and they followed, arranging themselves in their usual pattern around him. He'd brought a bag with him. Inside were their favorite toys, blankets that smelled like home, and treats. Owen distributed them, trying to create some normalcy. Here's the thing, he said, keeping his voice calm and steady. We're going on a trip. A short one. It's going to be scary and weird, but I need you all to trust me. Can you do that? Bold looked at him with ancient eyes. Sometimes Owen forgot these were babies. There was an intelligence there that seemed far older than their few weeks of life. Bright chirped questioningly and nudged the bag, looking for answers among the familiar objects. Your mom is coming, Owen continued. He didn't know if they understood the concept, but he kept talking. Your real mom. She's been looking for you. She thought you were lost. We're going to go show her that you're okay. At the word mom, something changed. All 7 hatchlings went still. Their heads tilted in unison. A coincidence? Or had they understood? Little made a sound Owen had never heard before. A long melodic call that was part question and part hope. The others joined in, creating a harmony that made the air vibrate. Then silence. They looked at Owen, waiting. Yeah, he said softly. Your mom. But here's the thing. She's going to be really big, and probably really angry that you were taken away. I need you all to stay calm. Stay with me. Show her that you're safe. Can you do that? Bold stood and placed a front claw on Owen's chest. The gesture was deliberate. A promise or a vow. The other hatchlings responded with their own gestures. Little nuzzled his neck. Bright pressed against his side. Grim bowed its head. Shadow touched his hand with a wingtip. Spark and Storm made twin calls of agreement. They understood, maybe not the words but the meaning. They would trust him. Owen spent the next 3 hours with them, playing games to tire them out, feeding them a large meal, and slowly introducing them to the travel carriers that would keep them safe during acceleration. The carriers were modified cargo containers, padded and reinforced, with transparent sides so they could see each other. Getting them into the carriers was harder than expected. They didn't want to be separated from Owen or from each other, but eventually, with patience and treats, all 7 were secured. The transport team arrived to move them to the shuttle. Owen walked alongside, talking continuously, his hand pressed against each carrier as they passed. The shuttle bay was mostly empty now. Essential personnel only. The rest of the station was on standby, ready to evacuate if this mission failed. Borum waited by the shuttle ramp. He wore full ceremonial armor, his scales polished and decorated with warrior markings. When he saw Owen, he straightened and placed a clawed fist over his heart. Owen of Earth, you have proven yourself worthy of the highest honor. You face the great beast not for glory, not for duty, but for love of those in your care. This is true warrior spirit. Borum's voice was thick with emotion. If you fall, I will ensure your name is remembered. Songs will be sung of the human who dared to face a dragon matriarch for 7 hatchlings not of his own kind. Let's hope we don't need the songs, Owen said. But thanks, Borum, for everything. The Soros warrior nodded. I have placed weapons aboard the shuttle. Not that they will help, but a warrior should not face death unarmed. I'm not bringing weapons, I know. That is why you will succeed where others would fail. The matriarch will see your hands are empty. She will know you come in peace. Owen boarded the shuttle. The hatchlings were already secured in the modified cargo bay. He checked each one, making sure they were comfortable. They chirped and called, anxious but trusting. The pilot was a Veilborn named Drift, chosen because his species had no fear response to dragons. Being gaseous had its advantages. Ready when you are, human. As ready as I'll ever be. The shuttle launched smoothly. Owen felt the gravity shift as they left the station. Through the viewport, he watched the massive structure shrink behind them. So many people watching, so many hoping he'd succeed. The hatchlings made distressed sounds as they experienced zero gravity for the first time. Owen moved through the cargo bay, speaking to each one, letting them see him floating. It's okay. This is normal. Just weird for a bit. Gradually, they calmed. Bright became fascinated by how objects floated. Spark tried to swim through the air. Little stayed pressed against the carrier wall closest to Owen. Bold remained alert, watching everything. Drift piloted them to the intercept coordinates. A point in space between the station and the approaching matriarch. Neutral ground, or as neutral as space could be. 12 hours until contact, Drift announced. Suggest you rest. This may be your last chance, Owen tried. He really did. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw a massive dragon bearing down on them. So instead he stayed with the hatchlings, talking to them, singing old Earth songs, trying to keep them calm. The hours crawled by. 10 hours, 8, 6, 4 hours, Drift said. His gaseous form swirled with agitation. I am detecting her now. She is massive. Larger than any dragon in the historical records. That's comforting. I have transmitted the communication packages as instructed. She has not responded. Maybe she doesn't care about data. Perhaps. Or perhaps she is simply focused on reaching her offspring. 2 hours. Owen could see her now on the display. A dot growing larger. Energy readings off the scale, 1 hour. The dot had become a shape. Wings that stretched across space. A body that dwarfed their shuttle. 30 minutes. Owen released the hatchlings from their carriers. They tumbled out in zero gravity, confused but excited to be free. He gathered them close. Okay, everyone. Time to meet your mom, 15 minutes. The hatchlings sensed her. They began calling out, their voices creating harmonies that vibrated through the shuttle hull. She responded, a sound so deep it registered more as vibration than noise. She is slowing. Drift reported. She knows they are here, 5 minutes. Owen could see her clearly now through the viewport. She was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Scales that shimmered like galaxies, eyes that burned like stars, wings that could embrace worlds. Opening shuttle bay doors, Drift said. Are you certain about this? No, do it anyway. The bay doors opened. Space yawned before them, and in that space, growing closer every second, was a mother searching for her children. Owen held onto a safety line. The hatchlings floated around him, their calls growing more excited. The matriarch filled the viewport, then filled the sky, then filled everything. She was right there, close enough to destroy them with a breath, close enough to see the individual scales on her face, close enough to look directly into her eyes. Those eyes found Owen, found the hatchlings, found them together. And in that moment, Owen understood that everything depended on what happened next. The matriarch hung in space before them, wings spread across the stars like a living constellation. Owen had thought he understood scale. He'd seen the hatchlings grow. He'd studied dragon anatomy, but nothing had prepared him for this. She was ancient, not just in years, but in presence. Looking at her was like looking at a mountain or an ocean, something fundamental to existence itself. Her scales reflected light that hadn't existed when humans first looked up at the stars. Her eyes held memories of worlds that no longer existed, and those eyes were fixed on Owen. The hatchlings tumbled out of the shuttle bay in a chaotic swirl of scales and wings. They struggled with zero gravity, spinning and chirping in confusion. But their calls were joyful, excited. They knew her. The matriarch moved, not with her wings, but with something else. Power that bent space itself. She glided toward the shuttle, and Owen felt his heart stop. This was it, the moment that decided everything. Little was the first to reach her. The smallest hatchling paddled through space with uncoordinated movements. Calling out desperately, the matriarch extended a wing, and Little landed on it with visible relief, then Bold. The protective one approached more cautiously but without fear. The matriarch made a sound, low and rumbling, that Owen felt in his bones. Bold responded and was gathered close. One by one, the hatchlings returned to their mother. She examined each one carefully, running her massive snout along their bodies, checking for injuries. They climbed on her, nestled under her wings, chirped and sang with happiness. Owen watched from the shuttle bay entrance, still holding the safety line. Part of him wanted to retreat inside, to put metal between himself and this ancient being, but he stayed. The hatchlings kept looking back at him, calling. They wanted him to come too, the matriarch noticed. Her attention shifted fully to Owen. Her head moved closer, closer, until her eye, easily the size of Owen's entire body, filled his vision. He saw himself reflected in that eye, small, fragile, terribly mortal. But he also saw something else. Intelligence, awareness, recognition. She knew. Somehow she understood that he had cared for her children. The matriarch pulled back slightly. Then she moved her head down slowly, deliberately. It took Owen a moment to understand the gesture. She was bowing to him. A dragon matriarch, a being that had lived for millennia, was bowing to a human maintenance technician. Owen's eyes burned. He bowed back as deeply as the safety line allowed. The matriarch made another sound. This one was different, musical and complex. The hatchlings responded immediately, gathering around her. But they were agitated now. Looking at Owen, looking at their mother. They didn't want to choose. It's okay, Owen called out. His voice sounded tiny in the void of space, but the suit's communicator transmitted it. Go with her. That's where you belong. Little broke away from the matriarch and paddled back to Owen. The small dragon reached him and pressed against his chest, making distressed sounds. The others followed. Within moments, all 7 hatchlings had returned to Owen, clustering around him protectively. The matriarch watched this with what Owen could only describe as surprise. She called to them. A clear command, but the hatchlings didn't move. They stayed with Owen. Bold turned to face the matriarch and made a series of sounds. A communication, an explanation. The other hatchlings joined in, creating a chorus that seemed to carry meaning. The matriarch listened. When they finished, she was silent for a long moment. Then she looked at Owen again. Really looked at him. Through him, Owen felt something. A presence in his mind. Not words exactly. More like feelings, questions. Who are you? Why did you help them? What do you want? He didn't know how to respond with thoughts. So he spoke out loud instead. I didn't want anything. They were scared and hungry and alone. I couldn't just leave them like that. Another presence in his mind. Deeper examination. She was reading him somehow. Seeing his memories, his loss, his daughter, his grief. His need to help these hatchlings because he couldn't save his own child. The presence withdrew. The matriarch's eyes softened. When she made her next sound, it was gentle, sad, understanding. She knew about loss, about loving and losing, about the pain that never quite healed. The hatchlings sensed the change. They began moving between Owen and the matriarch, creating a bridge. They chirped and called, encouraging them both. Little took Owen's hand in tiny claws. Bold did the same on the other side. Together, they pulled him forward, away from the safety of the shuttle. Whoa, wait. I can't survive out there without the line. But the hatchlings were insistent. The matriarch moved closer and Owen realized what they wanted. She positioned herself beneath him, wings spread. A platform, an invitation. You want me to trust you? Owen asked the matriarch. She blinked once. Slowly. Yes. Owen looked at Drift's gaseous form inside the shuttle. The Veilborn pilot had witnessed everything. Tell the station what happened. If this goes wrong, it will not go wrong, Drift said. She honors you. Go. Owen released the safety line. The moment he did, panic hit. He was floating in open space with only his suit between him and the void. But the hatchlings were there, guiding him, keeping him steady. And then he was on the matriarch's wing. The surface was warm, solid. Her scales were smooth under his hands. The matriarch began to move, gliding through space with her children and this strange human who had cared for them. She took them on a wide circle around the shuttle, then further out into open space. Owen should have been terrified. He was on the back of a creature that could kill him instantly. But the hatchlings were pressed against him, happy and content. And the matriarch moved with such care, such grace, she was showing him something. Trust worked both ways. They flew past asteroids and through clouds of cosmic dust. The hatchlings played, diving and swooping in ways they never could in the station. This was their natural environment. This was freedom. Little stayed with Owen, pressed against his side. The small dragon looked up at him and made a questioning sound. Yeah, I'm okay. This is amazing. The matriarch brought them back to the shuttle eventually. She positioned herself so Owen could climb back to the bay entrance. But before he left her wing, she turned her head to look at him once more. This time, the presence in his mind was clear. Images, understanding, an offer. She couldn't take all 7 hatchlings with her. Not yet. They were too young for the long journey she had to make. But she wouldn't leave them in a station either. She wanted them with someone who would care for them, someone they already loved. She was asking Owen to continue raising them until they were ready. You want me to keep them? The feeling of affirmation was strong. But they're yours, your children, more images. A mother bird pushing fledglings from the nest. A cat teaching kittens to hunt, then letting them go. Sometimes the best care was knowing when to let others help. The matriarch trusted Owen. More than that, she recognized that the hatchlings had bonded with him in a way that couldn't be undone. They needed both of them now. Mother and chosen family. I'll take care of them, Owen promised. I'll keep them safe. And when they're ready, I'll make sure they can find you. The matriarch's response was a sound that shook space itself. Approval, gratitude, and a promise of her own. She would return. And when she did, she would bring others of her kind. The galaxy had shown kindness to her children. She would remember. Owen climbed back into the shuttle. The hatchlings followed reluctantly, calling back to their mother. She responded, a long melodic farewell. As Drift closed the bay doors, Owen watched the matriarch through the viewport. She hung in space, magnificent and terrible and beautiful. Then her wings caught starlight and she was gone, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. That was incredible, Drift said. His gaseous form swirled with excited colors. No one will believe this. A dragon matriarch bowing to a human, sharing flight, offering custody of her offspring. Owen sank down among the hatchlings. They piled on him immediately, seeking comfort and reassurance. Did that really just happen? It did, and I recorded all of it. This will change everything. The flight back to the station felt different. The hatchlings were quieter now. Not sad exactly, but thoughtful. They'd seen their mother. They knew she loved them. And they knew she trusted Owen. That was a responsibility Owen hadn't fully understood until now. When the shuttle docked, half the station was waiting. Dr. Halvin, Quillis, Borum, and dozens of others. They crowded the bay entrance, staring at Owen and the hatchlings in awe. "You're alive," Dr. Halvin said, his voice full of disbelief. "Apparently. The matriarch. She let you go. She honored you. She did more than that." Owen gestured to the hatchlings. "She asked me to keep raising them. Until they're ready." The crowd erupted in excited chatter, multiple species talking over each other. The implications were enormous. Borum pushed through the crowd. The massive Soros looked at Owen with something close to reverence. "You have achieved what no warrior could. You faced the great beast and returned with blessing instead of death. You are honored among all peoples. I just did what needed doing." "No," Quillis said, her crystalline form glowing bright. "You did the impossible. A dragon matriarch bowed to you. Do you understand what that means in dragon culture? It means eternal debt. It means alliance. It means she will defend you and yours until the stars grow cold." Owen looked down at the hatchlings surrounding him. Little was already asleep against his leg. Bold watched the crowd warily. The others stayed close. "I don't need all that," Owen said. "I just need them to be safe and happy." Dr. Halvin clicked his mandibles softly. "And that, I think, is exactly why she chose you." The station erupted in celebration. Word spread across the galaxy within hours. Images of Owen standing with the matriarch. Video of the hatchlings playing on her wings. The bow, everything changed that day. Requests poured in from across the coalition. Scientists wanting to study the bond. Politicians wanting to establish formal dragon relations. Everyone wanted to meet the human who had achieved the impossible. But Owen ignored most of it. He had 7 hatchlings to raise. 7 children who needed him. And somewhere out in the deep dark, a mother dragon was spreading the word. The small creatures who called themselves humans were to be treated with respect. They had compassion. They had courage. They had honor. The galaxy was about to learn what that meant. 6 months painted a different galaxy. Owen stood in the new facility watching Spark chase Bold through an obstacle course designed for creatures 10 times their current size. They'd grown, all 7 of them. Bold was now the size of a small spacecraft, with wings that could create windstorms when fully extended. Little, the smallest, was still considerably smaller than the others but had caught up enough to keep pace during their games. The facility itself was a marvel. Built in record time on a moon near the station, it gave the growing dragons room to fly, hunt, and learn. Coalition funding had poured in once the footage of Owen and the matriarch went public. Everyone wanted to be part of this historic alliance. But more than that, everyone wanted to understand how it had happened. "The fear response tests are conclusive," Dr. Halvin said, reviewing data on his pad as he walked beside Owen. "Other species still experience the instinctive dread when approaching dragons, but it has decreased by 40% on average. Exposure therapy combined with seeing positive interactions is rewriting millions of years of evolution." Owen watched Grimm solve a puzzle lock he'd designed. The Sirius dragon had become frighteningly intelligent, capable of learning complex tasks after a single demonstration. They're not the monsters everyone thought they were. No, but they are still dangerous. Bold nearly destroyed an observation tower last week during flight practice. That was an accident. He's still learning his own strength, I know. But it illustrates the challenge ahead. These 7 will be fully grown in another year. And when the matriarch returns with others, we must be prepared. Owen knew Dr. Halvin was right. The hatchling's growth rate was accelerating. Storm already couldn't fit through most doorways. Bright had accidentally melted a metal support beam while experimenting with breath weapons. Shadow, despite being shy, had nearly given a Chitauri researcher a heart attack by appearing unexpectedly from the shadows. They were becoming dragons, real dragons, and the galaxy wasn't quite ready for that. "The training program is expanding," Quillis said, joining them. Her crystalline form reflected the afternoon sun in rainbow patterns. "We have volunteers from 18 species now, all learning to work alongside young dragons. Some are even bringing their children. That had been Owen's idea. If adults struggled with their instinctive fear, maybe children who grew up with dragons would be different." The initial results were promising. Young Chitauri, Saros, and Lumens played with the hatchlings under careful supervision. Fear responses were minimal. Bonds were forming. A new generation was learning that dragons could be family. Owen, a voice called from across the compound. A Chitauri scientist named Reed, young and enthusiastic, was waving frantically. "Come quick! You need to see this." Owen jogged over, Dr. Halvin and Quillis following. Reed led them to the communication building where a crowd had gathered around the main display. "What is it?" Owen asked. Reed pointed at the screen with a trembling antenna. "We've been monitoring deep space, looking for signs of the matriarch's return, but we found something else. Multiple signatures, dozens of them. All dragon energy patterns, all heading this way." Owen's stomach dropped. "Dozens? When will they arrive?" 3 days. The room fell silent. 3 days until multiple adult dragons descended on their location. This could be the alliance the matriarch promised, or it could be something else entirely. "We need to prepare," Dr. Halvin said. "Alert coalition defense forces. Evacuate non-essential personnel. Secure the hatchlings." "No," Owen said. Everyone turned to look at him. "No evacuation, no defense forces, and definitely don't secure the hatchlings. That's the opposite of what we should do. Have you lost your mind?" Borum had appeared, drawn by the commotion. "Multiple dragons approaching and you want no defenses?" The matriarch promised alliance. "She's bringing her people. If we greet them with weapons and fear, we prove we haven't learned anything. Or we prove we are not fools," Borum countered. Owen looked at the Saros warrior. Over the past months, they'd developed mutual respect. Borum had even started working with the hatchlings, overcoming his fear through determination. "You've seen what trust can do. You've watched these hatchlings go from terrified and dying to thriving. That happened because I didn't come at them with weapons. I came with open hands. Those were babies. These are adults. Fully grown, fully capable. Which means fully capable of understanding what we're trying to do here." Owen turned to Dr. Halvin. "Trust me. Please. We've come this far. Let's finish it right." Dr. Halvin's mandibles clicked in rapid calculation. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. But we will have emergency protocols ready, just in case." The next 3 days were chaotic. Word spread across the galaxy. Media ships arrived to record the historic meeting. Politicians sent representatives. Scientists brought equipment. Everyone wanted to witness dragons and coalition species coming together peacefully, or witness the disaster if it all went wrong. Owen spent the time with the hatchlings. They sensed his nervousness and responded with their own agitation. Bold had become increasingly protective, positioning himself between Owen and anyone who approached. Little refused to leave Owen's side even during meals. "They know something's coming," Owen told Quillis during one evening observation. "They can sense their own kind. Dragon perception extends beyond our understanding. They likely feel the approach of their species." "Are they scared?" "Excited, I think. But also uncertain. They have bonded with you, with this place, with the other species here. They are not sure what arrival of adult dragons means for those bonds." Owen understood. He wasn't sure either. The day arrived clear and bright. The facility grounds were packed with observers from dozens of species. Camera drones filled the sky. Owen stood in the center of the main courtyard. The 7 hatchlings arranged around him. They'd grown so much. Bold's shoulder reached Owen's chest now. Storm's tail could wrap around 3 people. Even Little was large enough to knock over a full-grown Saros if she got excited. But to Owen, they were still the scared babies he'd first fed 6 months ago. "Energy signatures detected," Dr. Halvin announced over the facility-wide speakers. "Visual confirmation in 30 seconds. Owen placed his hand on Bold's neck. The dragon rumbled softly, a sound of recognition and anticipation. They appeared as shapes first, dark forms against the bright sky. Then wings spread and Owen's breath caught. There were so many, 20, 30, maybe more, adult dragons of every color. Gold and silver and copper, deep blue and forest green, crimson red and purest white. They circled the facility like a living storm. The crowd of observers pressed back, fear overriding curiosity. Security forces raised weapons despite orders to stand down. Even Owen felt his heart pounding against his ribs. Then the matriarch descended. She was unmistakable, larger than the others, ancient and powerful. She landed with surprising gentleness in the courtyard, her claws barely making sound against the stone. The hatchlings exploded into action. All 7 rushed forward, calling out joyfully. The matriarch gathered them close, examining each one with obvious relief and pride. They'd grown so much since she'd last seen them. But after a moment, the hatchlings did something unexpected. Bold broke away and returned to Owen. Then Little. Then all of them. They positioned themselves between Owen and their mother, calling to both, trying to bring them together. The matriarch looked at Owen. Her massive eye held recognition, gratitude, and something else. Invitation. She stepped back, and the other dragons began landing. One by one they touched down, surrounding the courtyard. Owen counted 32 in total. More adult dragons in one place than had been seen in centuries. One of them, a silver dragon with scars across her snout, approached. She studied Owen carefully, then made a questioning sound to the matriarch. The matriarch responded. Her voice carried across the courtyard, and every dragon listened. She was telling them the story, about finding her children safe, about the human who had cared for them when no one else could, about trust. When she finished, the scarred silver dragon approached Owen directly. She lowered her head slowly, then touched her snout to his forehead. It was gentle despite her size. A greeting, an acknowledgement. Then the next dragon did the same. And the next, one by one, 32 adult dragons greeted Owen, not as a threat, not as prey, as an equal. The watching crowd was silent with shock. This wasn't just alliance. This was acceptance. Dragons were welcoming a human into their culture. Borum watched from the edge of the courtyard, his weapon lowered. Impossible, he whispered. Absolutely impossible. But it was happening. As the last dragon completed the greeting ritual, the matriarch made another sound. This one was louder, a declaration. The dragons responded in chorus, and the sound shook the ground. Dr. Halvin rushed to Owen's side with a translator unit. The device cannot process dragon language properly, but I'm getting fragments. She is declaring you keeper of hatchlings and bridge between peoples. She is stating formal alliance between dragonkind and the coalition. Just like that? Owen asked. After centuries of conflict? Not just like that. Because of you. Because you showed them that other species could be trusted. That we could care for their young. That we are capable of compassion. Dr. Halvin clicked his mandibles softly. You have changed galactic history, Owen. The celebration that followed lasted 3 days. Dragons and coalition species mingling freely for the first time in living memory. Scientists from both sides sharing knowledge. Children playing together regardless of species. The training program expanded dramatically. Dragons volunteered to teach young ones of other species. A Saros warrior asked to learn dragon flight techniques. A Lumen scientist partnered with a dragon to study energy manipulation. Barriers that had existed for millions of years were falling. Owen watched it all from the facility roof. Little curled beside him. The small dragon had claimed him as her personal human and rarely left his side. We did it, he said softly. Not sure how, but we did it. Little chirped in agreement, then pressed closer for warmth as the sun set. Below, Bold was teaching a group of young Chitauri how to be brave. Storm was racing with Saros warriors. Bright was solving puzzles with Lumen scientists. Grim was having a philosophical discussion with a golden dragon elder. Shadow was helping shy children from various species overcome their fear. Spark was organizing games between dragons and non-dragons. They weren't just surviving. They were thriving. They were building something new. Your daughter would be proud, a voice said. Quillis had joined them on the roof, her crystalline form glowing softly in the fading light. Owen nodded, his throat tight. Yeah, she would have loved this. She always wanted to see dragons. Used to draw pictures of them. In a way, you did this for her? Maybe. Or maybe she did it through me. Either way, something good came from the grief. They sat in comfortable silence, watching dragons and other species interact below, watching the impossible become routine. A month later, the matriarch prepared to depart. She would take some of the adult dragons with her, but others would stay, permanent residents. Teachers and learners both. The 7 hatchlings had a choice. Go with their mother or stay with Owen. Owen knew what they would choose before they even made it. They'd grown up in this place with these people. This was home, but they would visit their mother. And she would visit them. The bond between dragon families was strong enough to span galaxies. As the matriarch prepared to leave, she approached Owen one last time. The presence in his mind was warm, grateful, full of promise. She showed him images. Dragon hatchlings playing with human children, dragons and coalition species exploring the galaxy together. A future where fear was replaced with friendship. It was possible now. Because one human had looked at 7 terrified babies and seen children who needed help. The matriarch spread her wings ready to launch. But before she left, she made one final sound. A call that echoed across the facility and beyond. Dr. Halvin translated. She says, "The small ones with soft skin and brave hearts are our friends. Those who harm them harm us. This is law. Protection. Alliance. Family." The matriarch launched into the sky, followed by her escorts. They circled once, twice, then vanished among the stars. Owen stood with 7 dragons around him, and a galaxy full of possibilities ahead. He thought about how he'd arrived at this station months ago. Broken, lost, just trying to survive each day. Now he had purpose. He had family. He had hope. "What are you thinking?" Quillis asked. Owen smiled. "I'm thinking about how sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest actions. How feeding some hungry kids led to Galactic Alliance. How doing the right thing even when you're scared can change everything." That is very philosophical for a maintenance technician. Former maintenance technician. Pretty sure Dr. Halvin promoted me to something else. Chief Dragon Relations Officer or something ridiculous. Ambassador of Interspecies Harmony, actually. That's even more ridiculous. They laughed. Below, a young Chitauri child nervously offered food to Bold. The dragon gently accepted, careful not to frighten the child. The child's parents watched with tears of joy. What had once been impossible was becoming normal. Fear was giving way to understanding, and the galaxy was learning that courage came in many forms. Sometimes, it looked like an ancient dragon facing the unknown. Sometimes, it looked like a child offering food despite instinctive fear. And sometimes, it looked like a grieving father who chose to help 7 terrified hatchlings because it was the right thing to do. Owen looked up at the stars where the matriarch had vanished. Somewhere out there she was spreading the word, telling other dragons about the humans who showed compassion, about the galaxy that was learning to change. And somewhere in his heart Owen hoped his daughter was watching, hoped she knew that her father had found a way to turn grief into something beautiful. 7 dragon hatchlings had needed someone brave enough to approach them. They got a broken human who was trying to remember how to care. It turned out that was exactly what everyone needed. The galaxy would never be the same.